Namaste. Welcome to the lecture series on the subject Applied Thermodynamics. This is module number 4 in that part 1 refrigeration cycle. This is lecture number 4. Myself Dr. Satheesh Kumar, Associate Professor of Mechanical Engineering, Canara Engineering College, Bantual, Mangalur. Now we will continue with the refrigeration chapter. So we finished off discussing the vapor compression, both the ideal cycle as well as the actual cycle. Now we'll discuss the gas or the air cycle refrigeration. Refrigeration can also be accomplished by means of a gas cycle, the most common being the one using air as a refrigerant. Hence it is also called as the air cycle refrigeration. In such a cycle, the throttle valve cannot be used for expansion of the working fluid. So we cannot use the throttle valve. During the throttling process, enthalpy at the beginning is equal to the enthalpy at the end. But for an ideal gas, all gases including air, as you know, are assumed to be ideal. Enthalpy is a function of temperature only. Hence, during throttling, temperature at the beginning will be equal to the temperature at the end. Since there is no cooling of air during expansion, refrigeration is not possible. You see why you are using expansion here? In order to reduce the temperature, especially temperature, but at the same time the pressure also should reduce, right? Now if there is no change in temperature, that means there is no cooling. So then if there is no cooling, so we can't supply this refrigerant to the evaporator coils or the evaporation, the space to be cooled. So hence refrigeration will not be possible. So what we do is, in place of throttle valve, so we use an expander. Now expander, it is capable of giving out some work output. So work output may be obtained from the expander that can be used for the compression, because you know that compressor is a work absorbing device, so which requires work input in order to function. Now if the expander work output can be given to the compression, then the net work input required by the compressor will be reduced. In a gas refrigeration cycle, the refrigerant remains in the gaseous state throughout the cycle. That means entire cycle. So there is no question of any liquid phase. Since there is no phase change, that is what, when it remains in the gaseous state throughout the cycle, so there is no phase change. The terms condenser and evaporator are not appropriate. See, when do we use the term evaporator? When the liquid refrigerant absorbs heat and evaporates into vapor. Similarly, the vapor refrigerant gives out its heat and gets condensed into liquid refrigerant. Since there is no phase change as it remains in the gaseous state throughout the cycle, so there is no meaning for the word condenser and evaporator to be used in the cycle or this refrigeration. The device in which heat is rejected at higher temperature can be called as a cooler, while the device in which heat is absorbed at low temperature can be called as a refrigerator. So now evaporator has to be replaced by a word called refrigerator, and the condenser can be replaced by a word or device called cooler. Means though they perform the similar thing as that of the evaporator and the condenser, but we won't use the word condenser and evaporator because there is no phase change. Now let us study the various refrigeration gas refrigeration cycles or the air refrigeration cycles. So the basic cycle is the reversed Carnot cycle. As all of you know, Carnot cycle is the basic cycle for all thermodynamic devices. Now here for this air refrigeration cycle also, the reverse Carnot cycle, because Carnot cycle direct cycle is not possible, reverse Carnot cycle. Now let us go through the diagram. So in the left hand side you can see the diagram of the refrigeration cycle. You can see evaporator, where the refrigerant absorbs heat from the space to be cooled or cold medium at temperature TL. The amount of heat absorbed is QL, and then that is what this is, the evaporator is space to be cooled or the cold medium. Then it enters the compressor at 2. You can see here it is compressed to a pressure and temperature at 3. Then it passes through a condenser where it gives out amount of heat QH to a warm media or the surrounding atmosphere at temperature TH. Then it undergoes expansion in a turbine from 4 to 1 and it enters back to the evaporator, thus completing the cycle. Now coming to the Carnot cycle diagram, this is a TS diagram as all of you know, but it's a reverse Carnot cycle. So this is the point 1 here, right, where it is the entry point of the evaporator, and 1 to 2 is the evaporation. So here it absorbs an amount of heat QL from the space to be cooled, and 2 to 3 is the isentropic compression. As you can see from the TS diagram, S2 is equal to S3. And similarly 1 to 2, you can see it is a constant temperature phase change process, because that point 1 and 2, so they are in the two phase region in the property diagram, you can see. So during the two phase region, when there is phase change, both the temperature and pressure remains same. So that all of you know. And 3 to 4 is the condensation, where it gives the amount of heat QH to the surrounding media, which is at a temperature of TH, and 4 to 1 is isentropic compression. So this is the explanation for those processes. 1 to 2, evaporation at constant pressure and temperature, wherein heat QL is absorbed from the substance to be cooled. 2 to 3 is the reversible adiabatic or isentropic compression with work input WC. You see, compression requires some work input. Then 3 to 4 is the condensation at constant pressure and temperature. Once again, 3 to 4 line is also in the two phase region. So here it gives out an amount of heat QH to the surrounding cooling media, right? Then 4 to 1 is the reversible adiabatic or isentropic expansion with work output WE. So this work output of this expander or expansion device can be given to the compressor, so that WC can be reduced, so that net work input will become WC minus WE. Now here the QH is nothing but the area under the curve 3 to 4. As all of you know, the area under TS diagram is nothing but the heat. So area under, now in order to explain that, if I draw that diagram here, TS diagram of the reverse Carnot cycle, just to explain that. Okay, so this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and this is 4. So process direction is from 1 to 2 is the evaporation, 2 to 3 is the isentropic compression, 3 to 4 is the condensation, 4 to 1 is the expansion. So area under 3 to 4 is nothing but, this is T max here, and this is T minimum or TH and TL, and this difference area is nothing but this full rectangle from here to here, right? You see this, including this part, full rectangle, I can mark it as AB. Okay, so amount of heat rejected, that is QH, is area under 3 to 4 is nothing but area of the rectangle AB34A. So that is nothing but, this is T max temperature here, this is T max, okay, this is T min, okay, T minimum temperature. Now this rectangle, this length is T max, and this difference is S3 minus S4. So it is T max into S3 minus S4. Similarly, area under 1, 2, that is amount of heat absorbed from the space to be cooled, is T min into S2 minus S1, and that can also be written as T min into S3 minus S4, because S1 is equal to S4 and S2 is equal to S3. So W net is nothing but WC minus WE, as I told you earlier in the previous slide, which can also be written as QH minus QL. So that becomes T max minus T min into S3 minus S4. So COP of the refrigerator, that is Carnot COP for the refrigerator, is nothing but QL by W net, because QL is the refrigerating effect for the refrigerator, divided by W net. So W net is nothing but T max minus T min into S3 minus S4. QL is nothing but T min into S3 minus S4. So from the above expressions, if we substitute, so we'll get COP of the Carnot refrigerator is T min divided by T max minus T min. So this is how we find the expression for the COP of the Carnot refrigerator. Now suppose if you use this device as a Carnot heat pump, as you know, the purpose will be different. See, refrigerator is used to cool the space at the low temperature region, that is low temperature reservoir, the space that has to be cooled, whereas a heat pump used to warm the surrounding, that means the high temperature region. So QH is the purpose there. Desired output will become QH, whereas the required input remains same, that is W net for both refrigerator as well as the heat pump. So when it comes to heat pump, you should know that it is the QH is the desired output, because your intention is to maintain the space, surrounding space, that is warm space at a particular temperature, whereas in case of refrigerator, the cold space has to be maintained at a particular temperature. Now if you make proper substitution, so it will be the COP of the Carnot heat pump will be T max divided by T max minus T min. The difference is Carnot COP for refrigerator is T min divided by T max minus T min, whereas for the heat pump, Carnot heat pump, the COP will be T max divided by T max minus T min. And all of you should know that this expression for COP in terms of temperature can be used only for Carnot COP. Right? You cannot use it for the actual COP. This is a theoretical or the maximum COP of a refrigeration cycle. These are the maximum values of for any refrigerator, or that what I told now, or heat pump operating between two fixed temperatures T max and T min. In other words, no refrigerator or heat pump can have a COP greater than that of the Carnot refrigerator or the heat pump while operating between the same maximum and minimum temperatures. So if you fix the T max and T min, so COP will be your Carnot COP of refrigerator and heat pump based on the temperature will be always greater, right? So no refrigerator can have a COP of more than this when operating between two fixed temperatures. When the refrigerator or heat pump operates on a cycle other than Carnot cycle, the heat rejection, that is the condensation, and the heat addition, that is the operation process, may not be isothermal. So here in the Carnot cycle, we have shown that the evaporation process 1 to 2 and the condensation process 3 to 4, since they are in the two-phase region, pressure as well as temperature remains same, that means they are the isothermal. But in the actual refrigerator or the heat pump, so this process of condensation and evaporation may not be isothermal, so there will be change in temperature also. Then the COPs are given by COP refrigerator is equal to T evaporator divided by T condenser minus T evaporator, right? So evaporator temperature you have to consider, okay, and also you have to consider the condensation temperature. Similarly, COP of the heat pump can be T condenser divided by T condenser minus T evaporator you have to use, where T condensation is the average temperature during condensation and T evaporator is the average temperature during evaporation. So how to calculate T condenser and T evaporator? As I told earlier, in actual process of condensation and evaporation, temperature may not remain same. Initially, when it enters the evaporator, temperature may be less. At the end of evaporation, temperature may be more. Then T evaporator will be the average of initial and final temperature. Similarly, during condensation, while entering the temperature will be more, while leaving the temperature will be less. So you have to calculate the average of these two for the T condensation. Okay. It can be seen that the closer the temperatures T condenser and T evaporator, the higher the COP. If the difference between T condenser and T evaporator is less, then we will have better or more COP. Now coming to the reverse Brayton cycle or Bell-Coleman cycle as the refrigeration cycle. So reverse Brayton cycle is another, Bell-Coleman cycle is another name for the reverse Brayton cycle. Now you can see the three diagrams there in the bottom. One is the schematic diagram of the reverse Brayton cycle. So you can see heat exchanger wherein it absorbs the heat from the space to be cooled. Here at the bottom you see this is the heat exchanger where it absorbs heat, then it passes through a compressor, right? Isentropy compression will take place. Then one more heat exchanger wherein it rejects heat. You can see it is rejecting heat to the surrounding warm space. Then it undergoes the expansion in a turbine. Now here you have the PV diagram. So 1 to 2 is the isentropy compression in the compressor. 2 to 3 is the heat rejection, right, in the heat exchanger, this heat exchanger. Okay, I won't call it as condenser now. Then 3 to 4 is the isentropic expansion, and 4 to 1 is the heat absorbed in the heat exchanger where it is connected to the cold space. Now similarly you can see the TS diagram, right? So 1 to 2 is the isentropic compression, 2 to 3 is the heat rejection at high temperature, 3 to 4 is the expansion, and 4 to 1 is the heat absorption at low temperature. So you can see 1 to 2 isentropic compression, 2 to 3 constant pressure heat rejection, 3 to 4 isentropic expansion, and 4 to 1 constant pressure heat addition. Now if you analyze this on unit basis, compressor work input WC is nothing but H2 minus H1. So you know that delta H is equal to Cp into delta T. So Cp into delta T is nothing but T2 minus T1. So H2 minus H1 can be written as Cp into T2 minus T1. Similarly, expansion work output WE, you can write it as H3 minus H4. You can see or go back in the video, slide back to see the previous slide. Okay, so 3 to 4 is the expansion, so H3 minus H4 is the expander work output, which is nothing but Cp into T3 minus T4. Similarly, heat rejected at constant pressure Q1, that is the amount of heat rejected to the surroundings, is H2 minus H3, which is nothing but Cp into T2 minus T3, and the amount of heat received at low temperature from low temperature space is nothing but Q2 is nothing but H1 minus H4, which is also equal to Cp into T1 minus T4. That means for the Brayton cycle, Brayton cycle we will be studying in module 2 later. So you will come to know more about that Brayton cycle. For a Brayton cycle, all these processes, the heat and work, can be expressed in terms of temperature because they are the functions of enthalpy changes. Now COP of the refrigerator is nothing but Q2 by W net. So Q2 divided by WC minus WE. So if you substitute for Q2, it will be Cp into T1 minus T4, whereas for WC it is Cp into T2 minus T1, and WE it is Cp into T3 minus T4. So Cp gets cancelled, so you get the expression T1 minus T4 divided by T2 minus T1 minus T3 minus T4. You can simplify, take a piece of paper, okay, try to solve instead of just listening. So in the denominator you have to make some changes. From the first term, take T1 outside, so you will get T2 minus by T1 minus 1. From the second term, take T4 outside, you will get T3 by T4 minus 1. Numerator remains same. Now for the isentropic process 1 to 2, as all of us know, T2 by T1 is equal to P2 by P1 to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma. That's it from pressure temperature relationship for the isentropic process. T2 by T1 is equal to P2 by P1 to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma. Similarly, for the isentropic expansion process 3 to 4, T3 by T4 is equal to P3 by P4 to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma, but you know P3 is equal to P2 and P4 is equal to P1. So you can write as P2 by P1 to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma. But from this expression, you know that P2 by P1 to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma is nothing but T2 by T1. So you can prove that or you can show that T3 by T4 is equal to T2 by T1. Now substituting in the COP expression, COP, so numerator remains same as T1 minus T4. Denominator, in place of T2 by T1 and T3 by T4, so you have to substitute P2 by P1 to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma. So you can take out these two terms are common inside the bracket. You can take it outside so that you can write T1 minus T4 outside and inside P2 by P1 to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma minus 1 as the common term. So this T1 minus T4 and this T1 minus T4 gets cancelled, and you will get the expression for COP as 1 by P2 by P1 to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma minus 1. That means COP can be expressed in terms of two pressure ratios. This is nothing but the COP of the reverse Brayton cycle or the Bell-Coleman cycle. Okay. So with this I conclude this lecture number 4, and we will continue with the lecture number 5 in the next lecture. Thank you.